So we did these manual tests of really simple scripts so you can see the problem. And so it's better to see what it's really like in practice. So for this, you install the OWASP Juice Shop. The OWASP Juice Shop is a famous hacking tool. It's intended for penetration testers. So it is a whole online store, looks sort of like Amazon, where you can buy things, and it has all sorts of vulnerabilities for hackers to break into. And they don't use it for this purpose, but I thought it would be really nice to use it for this purpose. You install your own copy and then you fix the code to make it secure. So you run scanners on it, and there's a variety of scanners. SonarCube is a free scanner. It is really spectacularly difficult to set up. It took me quite a while to get it going, and I've followed the instructions to install Docker. You get this thing going, and you end up with a dashboard. Here, let me shrink this a bit. All right. You create a SonarCube project and analyze your project. You get a token for some reason specifying your project, and then it runs analysis, analyzing all your code. You tell it what language it's in. And this, I think, is PHP, this thing. And then you download and scan the code. So it runs through your source code looking for vulnerabilities, and the results are amazingly bad. It only found one security problem in this OWASP vulnerable app that has dozens of serious security problems, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and all that stuff. So I was very unpleased with it. And you can practice fixing this one, but I found SonarCube to be not worth much. And my understanding is SonarCube was not really intended to find vulnerabilities. It's intended to find performance problems and things like that. So that's SonarCube, hard to set up and not too useful. Kodesy is one a lot of people told me to use. They said this thing is really great. So Kodesy is an online cloud service, so you can just fork the Juice Shop. I made my own copy of the Juice Shop so it won't change in case they're changing the original at OWASP. You can fork my copy of this, get exactly the right thing, and then make a Kodesy account, and you can now scan your code for vulnerabilities online in the cloud, which is nice. But when you're done, it's going to find 236 total issues. But if you go to security and review them, it's going to find 85 items. Here's a list of security things. And remember, user-controlled data in methods, which might lead to injection, possible hard-coded secret, and so on. So it found a few meaningful security problems. And so that's one thing to see how this works. And I think I have one where you fix it. Yeah, investigating the security issues, you find them, and then you investigate them, find the source code, and fix them, which is something students get used to, digging through a real code base that has a lot of files and such. The scanner gives you a clue, and you can find the code here, your critical issues, find the hard-coded secret. Notice Kodesy provides a very brief and generally misleading analysis of the problem. It says you can fix this problem in 5 minutes. If you read this document, this is in fact a very hard problem to solve. We talked about it before. If you have a hard-coded secret, there are recommendations how to fix it, but they point out it can be very difficult. I mean, so it's not a 5-minute task to fix such a thing. And then there's a SQL injection. All right, so this is just where you practice hunting through the database to find the code, which is more difficult than you might imagine. And then there's Semrep is another one people recommend. It's supposed to be like a programmable code vulnerability scanner. I wasn't able to get a lot of good out of Semrep. Again, you can run this thing, and it found some flaws, but it wasn't best. The one that gets the most buzz these days, I find, is Snake, S-N-Y-K. Snyk. This thing supposedly says it will use AI to fix your code for you. And I said, well, that sounds great. So you get a copy of the vulnerable GitHub, you go to Snyk and make a plan, and you scan the thing. And the results is it finds 5 critical vulnerabilities in the package file. And if you look at the package file, it just lists what versions of libraries you're using. And that's, by the way, the only thing it can fix in AI is if you're using like version 1.7 and you should be using version 1.8, it can fix that with AI. The AI can't fix anything else. So I was not impressed at the glorious AI. But it did find some other vulnerabilities, like here you find cross-site scripting, denial, use of a weak hash, uninitialized memory exposure, and so on, command injection. So it found some pretty good stuff. And fixing that is a good thing for students to learn how to do. So it's pretty good. And all of these are source code scanners, and that is called static testing, where you test code that's not running. And that's important, of course, but you also need to check while it's running. And the only one I have so far is OWASP ZAP. The one they use at a company I consult for is Ubiquity. I think that's what they call it. It's a dynamic tester that you run the real app and it sends real data through the internet testing these things. And that's important. You'll find a different series of flaws with a dynamic test than you will with a static code testing. You really need to run both. They find different categories of test. And there's a third thing you have to do. An intelligent human has to test it, because there are other kinds of logic flaws, like you're supposed to limit deposits to $5,000, and I can put in larger ones. None of these automated scanners can test for things like that, because they don't really understand your app and know your other security rules. They only know generic security attacks like cross-site scripting and SQL injection. So you really need all three of those things to secure your app. You need to do code scanning, static code scanning, dynamic testing of the running app, and intelligent testing by a human trying to break it. Those are all things you have to do before your app is reasonably secure. So here you can run Z-Attack Proxy, which is an OWASP product. It's very nice. It's a free vulnerability scanner, and you can start this thing scanning, and it will find a lot of things. It's going to send attack traffic to the server. It took about 5 minutes, and you'll get results down here, alerts telling you metadata may be exposed. And that's because at first it doesn't find very many, because this is a modern web application and you have to use the AJAX spider, which means you may have to find automatically programmatically generated URLs that it has to understand and then go there. Once you use the AJAX spider, it will take a lot longer to run, and it will actually find a lot more vulnerabilities. And so then you're going to get a lot of red flags pointing out flaws in your app, as you can see them here. And in particular, one of them is the SQL injection. And the great thing about a dynamic code scanner is it'll give you the data, it'll give you the vulnerabilities down here, SQL injection, cross-domain misconfiguration, and all this jazz. And when you click on one, you can see the exact request it made and the exact response it got, just like in Burp. So you can really understand what it sent and what it got back, and you can evaluate whether you really think it's a problem and get an idea how to fix it. One thing, however, that is more difficult about a dynamic scanner is it does not know what line of source code is responsible. You look at the request and the response, but since it's not scanning your source code, it can't tell you which file or which line had the problem. You're going to have to figure that out yourself. So that's an issue. But it's a way to say we have a dynamic scanner, and you can get a report. So anyway, it's good for students to practice with these tools, and this is really what they were paying me for to consult at that bank, is to get their developers used to doing this and practice on a vulnerable app, so they have an idea how this will be. And they were quite cheerful about that. I haven't heard from them for a while now, but it was all the rage last year. I taught a bunch of these classes, and they were saying they were really helpful for their developers. So they'll probably come back after they give up some nonsense about AI and want more classes like that. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. And I think that's all I should show you for this workshop.